What's up everyone, my name is Josh and this is Josh Unboxed and welcome back to another video. And today I kind of want to talk about the expectations of the NBA playoffs, investing in the NBA playoffs. It's something that I'm not doing, it's something that I try to stay away from because based off of last year, what happened last year, I think that if people are going about it the same way that they did last year, then people are going to be in a world of disappointment. If you want to think about it this way, I'm coming at it as a contrarian point of view because I don't think we're going to see the same things that happened last year happen this year in terms of run-ups. And the main reason why is because I think last year was just an anomaly in sports, an anomaly in sports card collecting and investing in general. If you think about it, we had COVID and the pandemic and the shutdowns and the quarantines, and it really changed the way things worked, especially when it comes to the world of professional sports. We had a brief moment in which a lot of sports were shut down, and because of that, they were out for a few months, and we could have considered that simply similar to an off season. It's just that during that time, there were a lot of people that entered into the hobby, which caused an increase in demand for these cards, an unusual increase in demand during a cycle that is usually considered, that I would say we can consider as off season, right? To the point where when we hit August, before the bubble started, and I'm talking about basketball in particular, that there was a huge run-up in all kinds of cards, whether we're talking about Hall of Famers, whether we're talking about ultra modern players, modern stars. There was a run-up in almost everything. You could have threw a dart at any player and the value would have increased. We can even talk about football for that matter too. Before the football season started, there was a huge run-up. But I'm going to strictly focus on basketball and the NBA playoffs. So in August, we had the bubble, right? And this is the first time that people who started investing into sports cards, right, come in at a time when sports are being played. So at that point, overreaction was all over the place. The Bol effect, right? Bol had a great scrimmage game. All of a sudden, his cards boomed up in price. Michael Porter Jr. had a great bubble performance, and his cards blew up in price. TJ Warren, Gary Trent Jr., all these players that played well, Tyler Hero, all these people who played well, their cards saw a huge jump in value, and to the point where it didn't really make any sense. A lot of these players really didn't accomplish much. They had a few great games here and there. They had a good performance in the playoffs, but that's the thing. And I think this is where it ties into investing in the NBA playoffs. The expectations for those players were so low, right? Sure, people might have thought, these players had potential, but the expectations were low overall. For someone like Gary Trent Jr., no one expected him to perform in the way he did. Someone like Tyler Hero, he exceeded expectations by performing the way he did during the playoffs, especially during that Celtics series. So things like that. When the expectation or when the performance exceeds the expectation, that's when you see a price increase. So now with investing into the current players in the playoffs, like people who are talking about Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, these guys, their expectations are to lead their teams to a deep playoff run. That's the expectations that are set for them. In order for their cards to see an increased run or an increase in price, we have to see them exceed those expectations. That's why for someone like Anthony Davis, I don't know if I would personally be investing in him because the expectation for him is to be able to make it to the NBA Finals. Sure, the Lakers are struggling, but when you have LeBron James on your team, you always have a shot to make it to the NBA Finals. So with that being said, if the Lakers make it to the NBA Finals, that is somewhat of an expectation because despite them struggling, you still have a shot with LeBron. So in order for Anthony Davis cards to actually go up in value and to be able to go up significantly, you would need them to win another championship. But even then, as history has shown, teams or players that have won championships don't necessarily increase in value right away, right after the championship has won. As a matter of fact, you look at the history of guys like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Anybody who's won an NBA championship or a championship for that matter, and you look at their prices at the end of that championship run, prices tend to fall a little bit. We saw the same thing with Tom Brady. They dipped a bit right after his Super Bowl win, and he's won 7 rings, right? But then over time, those cards will increase in value. But for someone like Anthony Davis, getting that second ring, does that really garner an increase in price for him? Sure, maybe, right? Maybe he's a really great player, but the expectations of him is a great player. And going along those lines, let's talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Giannis, sure, his teams have struggled. He hasn't made the finals, but every year there's an expectation set on Giannis to make it to the finals. So I don't think his prices will increase unless he makes it to the finals. And even then, it really depends on who they play coming from the Western Conference if they'll have a shot at winning the championship. Because with Giannis Antetokounmpo, the expectation for him is to lead his team to the finals. That is the expectation. That is what's laid out for him. Because of the many failures trying to make it to the finals, he needs to make it into the finals in order for you to realize great value or great gains in his cards. But like I said, even then, how high will it increase? Because if you ask me, I think Giannis cards are overvalued. His cards are going for 2,500, maybe even 2,800, close to 3 possibly. But for a player that's won 2 MVPs, right? No championships, 1 defensive player of the year, a hell of a talent for sure. And you're telling me that his Prism PSA 10 is worth $3,000? To me, I feel like that's somewhat overvalued in a sense. But there's just so much expectations laid out on him. I used to own a Giannis rookie card, right? I own a Giannis PSA 10, but I got rid of it. I sold it and put it into something else. Giannis is a great player, first ballot Hall of Famer, quite possibly. But in order for his cards to realize those values of $2,000, $3,000, then he needs to win that championship. Will it go up to its peak of 7,000 like it did back in August last year? I don't think so. So if you're betting on Giannis, you're hoping for a slight increase. So if you're buying it at $2,500 now, you're looking for that increase to up to 3. These players have to do something remarkable in order for their cards to get a huge jump in value. And what I mean by that is you got to do something incredible. Right? Incredible, memorable, something to solidify them and solidify their legacy. And that's just my opinion on this thing. So that's why I feel that players today, if we are planning on investing into the NBA playoffs, you have to temper your expectations. And I think that a lot of people will be disappointed based off of what's going to happen with these card values for this entire playoff run. Jason Tatum just scored 50 points to beat the Washington Wizards. Do you think that warrants an increase in his price? I can ask you that question, but if you ask me, I don't think so. I don't think it warrants a jump in his price. It'll probably jump from 500 to 600 because people are thinking that, hey, he scored 50 points. The Celtics made it into the 8th seed, but guess who they're playing against? They're playing against the Philadelphia 76ers. The Celtics have been struggling the whole season. In order for the Celtics to advance, Tatum has to have nights like this. This is an expectation of Jason Tatum to be able to provide leadership and be able to be that guy to lead the Celtics to the next round. Unless he's able to do that, then I don't think his cards warrant an increase in value. But even then, for a player that's already been to the conference finals, the expectations should be higher for him in order for his cards to increase in price. It's a different type of video here. It's more of like I said, a contrarian point of view where I feel that we have to be careful, or if you plan on investing for the NBA playoffs, you have to be careful. Temper your expectations because a lot of these prices are built in with expectations already. And in order for these cards to realize value or increase in value, these players have to do something different. They have to do something incredible. They have to do something remarkable, at least in my opinion, for the prices to be warranted to jump up. And part of it stems from me thinking that these cards are probably overpriced to begin with. Because if you think about it, when the card shoots up in value, and this could be a topic for another video, when the cards shoot up in value and you have a huge run up within a short time period, you're overshooting that true market value of that card, because there's a lot of FOMO buying, there's a increase in demand, there's a frenzy, and most oftentimes than not, we overshoot the true market value, sometimes by a lot. And that's why we see that pullback later on. It's not a natural growth. You want a natural growth. If you plan on investing into sports cards, you want it to have an organic, natural growth. And I feel that is sustainable for long-term success. But anyway, these are just my thoughts, my opinions. I know it's very contrarian, especially with a lot of people talking about investing into the playoffs now and trying to jump on that train, trying to catch that trend before everything increases, thinking that it's going to be the same like last year. However, I would just like to say use caution on it. That's why I'm not focusing so much on players within the NBA playoffs. I mean, I am looking at Steph Curry, but I bought one of his cards just recently. And that's something, when it comes in, I'll show you guys it, but I thought it was a good price at the time. And when I looked at Steph Curry, I'm actually looking at his whole entire body of work, not just of what he can do in the playoffs, but his whole entire body of work and the legacy that he will leave behind when he retires. And I feel like he provides very, very good value for a long term. That's pretty much it. Whether you agree or disagree, sound off below. This is just a point to kind of launch a discussion, because this is how I feel about it. And once again, this is just my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So whether you agree or disagree, it's all fine. It's all about engagement. And with that being said, my name is Josh, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.